I've tried several businesses. Some has failed, some did well. But the one thing I've always told him is people will always remember your successful ventures. Because when you talk about Jordan, when we talk about lifestyle, that's one of the things that we've patterned ourselves after is our Jordan brand is not the clothing, it's the lifestyle it presents. That's why he hasn't played in almost 25, 30 years, and his shoes are off. It's because of the lifestyle it represents when you have on ones. If you're going to try something, go ahead and do it, because if you fail, nobody's going to remember but you. And there's no such thing as failure anyway. So when you take an L, just translate that L as a lesson learned. That's what the L stand for. And I promise you it'll help you keep on moving.
Back again with another episode of Attractive Mindset, and today's guest, absolute champions in the industry. When I'm talking about clothing, urban apparel, luxury, streetwear, you can't not mention Efendee. We have Frank and Don here, and they're going to absolutely break it down how to just be part of community, but be Black business leaders, Black business owners that really just dominate the market.
Thank you, man. Thank you for introducing me. Thank you for having me back.
Of course,
well.
Of course.
Don P, 1/3 of the big three, half of Efendee. Now you guys are going to really understand what I mean when I say that.
Thank you for having me, Frank. One half of Efendee. No part of the big three. No, but appreciate you having us. Thank you.
Of course, of course. So tell us how, Black leaders like yourself get to the point where you've never been in the clothing industry, you've never been in the merch or anything like that. Y'all have a humongous, amazing looking store. I just being honest, I know people out there that have stores and they've been in the game for a while, and it's not like that. You could tell that you actually put artistic, quality into your work. What's on the walls, what's on the floor when you walk in, the actual merch itself. Like how did you guys even get into that?
Well, first and foremost, the most important thing, me and Frank, we're brothers. We're actual blood brothers.
Okay.
I'm older by 10 years. We grew up together. So that plays a major part in what we do. We have two different worlds that we're into. Obviously, me being the event planning, marketing, and Frank, he's into the roof consultant. And what I love about Frank being a roof consultant, he is the only Black roof consultant in the state of Florida. So I love when every time I'm talking about my brother, I love saying that part. Like, hey, he's the only Black one in the state of Florida. Well, now we also getting my son into the game as well.
So it's one of two now.
Okay.
So that relationship was obviously everything us growing up, doing together, apart, it kind of like formulated into Efendee. Because literally we realize in our own different worlds, we're very successful, yet we've never, come together and put our minds together to do something. And we decided, you know what, let's think of something. And it first started off, we wanted to come up with a name. Before we came up with anything else, we wanted to come up with a name. And actually, Frank came up with a name.
Yeah, so like my brother was saying, we come from two different business backgrounds, and the way he does business in his entertainment field is completely different on how I do business. The way we communicate with our clients are different. The way we market are different, and we always admired how each other worked, and we figured that if we were to come together and I bring my strength and he brings his, I complement where he's weak at, he complements where I'm weak at. So it literally happened at my mother's table. We was at her house. It's just one of those days where it's like we don't see each other that often. So it's like whenever we can see each other, it's usually at my mother's house. Like, hey, I'm going to my house. Me too. I'll see you there. So we ended up at my house, and now me and him are catching up. Of course, we go to see our mother, but now me and him are catching up. And then we just started talking business. Normally, when we talk businesses, he's telling me how well his businesses is doing, and I'm doing the same. But on this particular day, we started talking about what would it look like if we worked together. And then the conversation, picked up some steam, and it was like, all right, let's do it. And it's like, okay, what are we going to do? And it's like, well, we don't know yet, but let's lock something in. And whatever it is, we just have to put a name to it. And it's like, okay, well, what do we name it? And then it's like, no matter what it is, they're going to get us. So that's how the name Efendee came up. F for Frank, D for Don, F&D. So one of the first business practices that we toyed around with was dry cleaning. So we thought about doing that, but then after a while, that kind of went away because after doing more research, it's like, well, people aren't dry cleaning like they used to. The economy was on a downturn, so people were buying clothes that wasn't as high end anymore. Majority of people, I mean, you got a lot of scammers in South Florida, so they still buying the Gucci and stuff. But even them dudes, they ain't taking it to the dry cleaners. They washing it themselves. So it was like, well, dry cleaners aren't as lucrative as that we may think it'll be. So we played around with a couple of other ideas, and one day out of nowhere, he just calls me. He's like, I got it. Let's open up a clothing store. And I think it could be a strength and a weakness depending on how you look at it. But me and my brother were both kind of bullheaded, and we're delusional to a fault. There's not many things we don't think we can do. So when one person brings up an idea, we're not thinking about the pitfalls of it. We're just thinking about, you know what, I think I can do this. So yeah, let's do it. So when he brought up a clothing store, it wasn't well, we never opened up a clothing store. Well, we never ran an e-commerce business. How do we? It wasn't none of that. It was like, okay, we'll figure this out. You cool, let's do it. What's the next step? Okay, we got to find a location. He found a location, and it was bare bones, nothing. So where some people would have looked at that and been like, well, we got to hire an architect or an interior designer. We were thinking about like, well, how are we going to decorate it? So, and early in college, I majored in architecture, and I was like, well, I know how to operate CAD. I know how to put blueprints together. I'm going to do it. So I laid out the store and I brought it to them, and I literally walked them through the vision. Like, hey, when they walk in, this is what they see. This is how the furniture is going to be laid out. This is where our logo is going to be, and so forth. And so this is where we're going to store the clothes. And he was like, yo, this is dope. It's like, all right, let's find a contractor to do it. He happened to know a contractor, and we all sat down. We talked about it, and the contractor was like, yeah, I see the vision. And literally piece by piece, it started coming together. And what we would have thought would have taken us a small fortune to put together, through our sheer will and reaching out to the people who were close to us, it was feasible. And now when people walk into the store, they pay us compliments like you just did.
Absolutely.
That's what's up. No, he actually hit it on the head right there. Just to piggyback off what he said is just knowing that, and when we put our minds together, it's one of those things that we don't think negative. It's like, hey, we're going to go for it. I can remember, and I don't know if you remember this, I said, you know what? I want to reevaluate us in 2 years. And though we may not be where we want in sales, I guarantee you what we're going to learn in 2 years is what most others in this field haven't learned in probably 20 years. And I said, that's going to be the name of the game, us learning as much as we can in the beginning. And I think that was very important. And that's one of the things we're still doing, constantly learning, no matter who we meet, from what apparels to get, material quality. We know there's certain materials that we don't even want in our store anymore because we realize those materials, once folks wash them, they become dingy. So we know now what to go to. We even know who to go to now in Pakistan and China.
Yeah.
And what's the other country?
China, Pakistan, India. There's we met manufacturing in Colombia. But again, all those things that were mentioned up, we knew nothing of this. Hell, we didn't even know where to buy clothes wholesale. Yeah, literally. I remember when we bought the store and we was building it out. It's in the process where it's like, okay, now we're gonna have to start getting inventory, and we're looking at each other like, where do we get the inventory? Where you go to? So we're searching, and it's like, okay, well, we need to put some in the store. And literally, one of the ideas was, so at the end of every season, stores like Macy's, JCPenney's, they get rid of all the last season stuff. They sell it bulk. So we was like, why don't we just buy one of their bulk orders that they're trying to just get rid of, unload, and then that'll be our starting merchandise, and then we'll figure out the rest. At least we'll have something in the store, so the store wasn't empty. So we played with that for a bit, but again, just doing research, we came across different sites that sold bulk orders. So we bought from them. And again, trial and error. We bought from them, saw what we liked, saw what we didn't like. But most importantly, the things that we didn't like, we had to learn to understand what we don't like about it. So if you come across something else in there and we're reading product description, because a lot of times when you're buying bulk, you don't have nothing to fill. You don't, it's just picture. Everybody's going to decorate they're going to dress up the picture to sell their business. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So now, but if you give me a product description, I can read it and tell you, okay, this is the type of products we want, or no, we don't really want to deal with this material, you know, and so forth. So again, it wasn't just getting what you want. It's like, okay, if we get what we don't like, we have to understand why we don't like it, so we know what to avoid next time. So again, through trial and error, through dealing with people that we didn't want to deal with or learn not to deal with, and then taking things that we like and understood what we like. Now we're at a point where we have several manufacturers that we like, we have several brands that we like, and we understand why we like them. So if we come across another brand that we've never heard of, and we ask them, you know, what materials are you using? Where's your clothes sourced from? And so forth. They can tell us like, okay, we have, you know, cotton blend shirts that are made like this, and it's screen printed this way, and it's stitched this way. We can say, okay, you're telling us everything we want to hear. So yeah, we'll do business with you. Now, if they're saying other things where, you know, the shirt is cut this way, or it was made in this location, it's like, okay, those were the red flags we hope to avoid. So now we're good off that. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. Okay, so I want to take a step back real quick and just analyze, because I study psychology for a long time, a lot, and I like to play around with like statistics and numbers and everything. And Black people, or the Black household in general, when it comes to entrepreneurship and success, and that number is very, very, very slim. But then to do it for a duo, brothers, is even slimmer.
Yeah.
And so where do you think you guys developed that you both even have champion mindsets in different industries, but then combine it to make another random industry?
One of the people I looked up to growing up, believe it or not, was my cousin. In fact, my cousins, they were two brothers as well.
They are two brothers.
They
still
are.
alive.
I'm sorry, yes, they are two brothers. Yeah, shout out to Enoch and Adner, our cousins. One is a civil engineer. Am I
Civil
saying this?
engineer, yeah.
His title correct. One's a civil engineer. The other one owns a tire shop, a used tire shop. And I love telling.
Well, he's
his
an
story.
entrepreneur. He owns this. He started off owning a tire
Yes.
shop, but now he owns several warehouses housing
Right.
food and stuff like that.
So, and I love telling his story because every time I drive in Dania, and the folks in Dania over there on the east side, they call them, I think they used to call him Haitian Enoch. No, Haitian Joe. That's what they call him. They call him Haitian Joe. So those folks that are in that side of town, they all know who I'm talking about. His little tire shop was on the side of the railroad track, right? And I love looking at it because it looks, I mean, honestly, it was probably as big as this office. But then when we go to his house, yeah, literally, his tire shop was this big. But then when we go to his house in Davie, he was one of the first Black people I knew who lived in Davie. I'm talking about Davie.
Yeah.
Your neighbors have Confederate flags.
Yeah,
stuff like that.
neighbors had Confederate
Literally,
flags.
that's not me joking. Seriously.
Yeah, exactly. He had that one neighbor, remember?
Yeah.
The one neighbor had a Confederate flag. We were young, we just go there. So just seeing what that little tire shop was providing for him. And then he went, obviously, just like Frank told you, he went and bought some warehouses in Haiti and made contracts with the government. Then he owns a restaurant in Haiti. So you're looking at a guy from just a little small space. I tell folks, you laughing at that little small space he got, but that small space created so much money for him that he knew what to do with it. And obviously Adner went the more formal, route as far as going to FIU. I believe that's where he graduated from and got his degree. And, once again, I went to Adner's house one day. I was young. And this is probably like in I would say probably about 95 or something like this. I'm at his house and he's working on a project. And I'm like, what you working on? What you building? And he said, I'm building a Winn-Dixie. I was like, a Winn-Dixie? What you mean you built? Yeah, this is correct me if I'm wrong, I still remember this. He was like, this is the plumbing page. So this is all the plumbing. This is the electrical. And he flipped it over. It's a big old piece of paper. I'm like, oh. And he's just teaching me this. I'm like, wow.
It's probably going in one ear, out the other.
It is, because there's so much he's giving me. I'm young. So my only question I wanted to ask him after that was like, how long is it going to take you to finish that? He was like, it's going to take me about a month and a half, 2 months. Oh, next question. How much you getting paid? He said $25,000. I was like, what? You making that much just to draw? Like, yeah. He said, it's not the only project. I got like 7 more projects like this. Wow. I was like, what? Like, bro, you eating. This was way back in the days. So I got personally, And then as far as in the family, as far as men next in line, these two gentlemen were older than me. And I'm like in the generation by myself. Like there's no guys my age in my family. All of them are Frank age and younger.
Mm.
So for me, those were the people I had to look up to. That was my form of father figures. So I always kept that in mind, and I always knew at a young age, excuse me, that I wanted to become an entrepreneur. And though I also had, my 9 to 5, several of them actually, I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I just didn't know that the Lord was going to lead me in the direction that He did. So that's why I always tell folks, marketing, event planning, all that chose me, because I definitely didn't chose that. Even when I got into real estate, all of that chose me, but I was thankful for it as well.
Absolutely. There's something around me and Haitians. Like I don't know, the lady that took me in, shout out Sandra, she's probably definitely gonna watch this. It's rough time in New York. She took me in, she treated me as her own kid. Yeah, for the past 4 years I've had $800 a month going to Haiti for her because she's building a restaurant out there. I think she's on the second one now, and it's been doing really good. And so I'm not Haitian myself,
No.
but just growing up with her, and she'll speak Creole to me and say, "Oh, you have to learn," and this and that. And so I do know
highly
some
of the
things.
Sandra lady. You
Yeah.
think very highly, because
It's
it's the second time I'm really hanging with you, and you brought her up.
Yes, very
I
Sandra.
know you think very highly of her. Yep.
I love Sandra. I treat her like my actual mother figure, and anything she wants, anything
Yeah.
she needs, it's always like that. But I definitely want to hear your influence.
I guess a big part of it would be to have my older brother. So I wasn't as close to Enoch and Avner as he was. Again, the age difference. But seeing him operate and seeing how he was ambitious, and you have most people that when they go into business and if it doesn't pan out the way they hope, they kind of get discouraged and fall back. And I'm not saying this to
No,
be
it's true, though.
disrespectful in any way, but you've taken loss after loss, but every time you took a loss, you got back up. Like Dwayne Wade had a famous saying that it was like on an ad. It says, fall down 7, get up 8. I don't know Dwayne Wade personally, but I know him and I've seen him do it, and seeing somebody be that ambitious and was able to take their lickings and get up and keep going. It was like, okay, it's doable. And then on top of that, just with the path I took, in high school, I was in a magnet program for architecture. So I was around guys who were architects. I was around engineers. I mean, I've worked as a draftsman, a project engineers for several architects and engineers and so forth. And I've worked in the construction industry. And I'm seeing these guys with their own businesses, and that was high earning individuals. And again, no knock to them, but I would look at them and say, you're no different than me. Like, granted, you have the business and all that, but you breathe the same air as me. You put it on your pants one leg at a time like I do. If you can do it, why can't I? I never sat and thought about, well, maybe he knows the right people and so forth and so forth. It was like, no, you figured it out. So can I. And that was my thing. No matter who it is, I figured if it was done once, it could be repeated. I just got to figure out how you did it first.
Absolutely.
And that's what drives me, knowing that somebody did it. So it's like, okay, I'm not starting from ground zero. I'm starting off wherever the last point where you decided not to cover your paper, that's where I'm starting from. I'm going to see what you did, and now I'll pick it up from there. And that's how I operate.
Okay. So even with your brand name being your first names, Efendee combined, what would you say is like the message of you guys' brand? Like what, who's your target audience and what do you want your brand to like represent?
Oh, that's a good one.
I definitely know it, but I know it was something you said in one of the across the aisles that I really like, and I see if you're going to repeat that right now.
That's going to be hard because a lot of times when I be speaking to people, I'll just be freestyling. But I'll go ahead and freestyle now. Like, so
Freestyle
honestly,
is right there, the lifestyle. Go ahead.
Yeah, so basically what our brand represents, what we wanted to represent, we wanted to be a reflection of us more or less. Although we are a clothing retailer and we sell clothing online, we do a lot more than that. So we started a monthly event called Across the Aisle, where in that event we highlight other entrepreneurs who's trying to come up. One of our things is, and we live by a lot of different, I guess, models and codes, but one of the things that drive us is that we wish to be the people we wish to be the people we wish we had in our lives. We aim to be the people we wish we had in our lives, in other words. So like when we were starting a business, we didn't have any mentors to show us like, hey, look, this is how you vet a marketing company, or this is how you find a location. So since we took those lickings and we've learned those lessons, we aim to be that. So any entrepreneur that's looking to come for advice or anything, we embrace them with open arms. One of the hardest things in starting a business is just getting somebody to listen to you, or just or somebody allowing you on their platform to say, hey, tell our audience what you do, and hopefully you'll find a connection there. So with Across the Aisle, that's what we do.
Got it.
We have another event that's not related to Across the Aisle that we do monthly called Threads and Melodies.
Right.
We're big fans of music. He, in his business, he has musical guests that comes in and performs. I'm just a big fan of music. So we decided to have a monthly event where we do that, but for up and coming artists. There's an up and coming artist now in South Florida by the name of Young Wildin'. He has a song that he's partnered with DJ Epps. And the song is called Good Energy. The first interview that he ever did was at our store. There's another young and up and coming artist called Alexander Starr. He just did the Threads and Melody last month, and it went great, you know? So our thing is helping people with smaller platforms help become a launching pad for them. We just want to see everybody win. And if we could be that big brother, or we could be that helping hand, or we could be that connecting piece, that's what we aim to do. Our thing is more than just a clothing store. We look to be a focal point in the community, a connection hub for people that's aspiring entrepreneurs, because that's what we are. And the change that we wish to see, in order to see it happen, we have to become it.
Absolutely.
So that's the message.
And that's you ended it perfectly. That's what I wanted you to say. Our motto is be the change. It's point blank, period. If you see something and you want it done, whether it's in the world, whether it's in a relationship, whatever, why don't you take the first step and be that change? You know, I'm very honored that Frank says he looked up to me, and he's right. I've tried several businesses. Some has failed, some did well. But the one thing I've always told him is people will always remember your successful ventures. Because when you talk about Jordan, when we talk about lifestyle, that's one of the things that we've patterned ourselves after is how Jordan brand is not the clothing, it's the lifestyle it presents. That's why he hasn't played in almost 25, 30 years, and his shoes are off. It's because of the lifestyle it represents when you have on ones. You get what I'm saying? Or whatever the case may be, whatever shoe. So with that being said, one of the first arguments for Jordan fans, when they're arguing Jordan fans, one of the first things they say is what?
You got 6 championships.
6 championship rings. But Jordan played 15 years. So that means there was 9 times he came up short.
Exactly.
To a Jordan fan, it's almost, if you wasn't raised around that time, you would have thought that Jordan only played 6 years in the NBA, because they only talk about the 6 years he won. They don't even mention the fact that in those 6 years, there was 2 years where there was that baseball and he came up short and lost to Shaquille O'Neal. And they don't even talk about that. Nah, that don't count to them. It's the 6 times that he won. So my message to everyone out there is, if you're going to try something, go ahead and do it. Because if you fail, nobody's going to remember but you. And there's no such thing as failure anyway. So when you take an L, just translate that L as a lesson learned. That's what the L stand for. And I promise you it'll help you keep on moving.
And most of the people you admire, I know most of the people I admire, they'll tell you quick, they've lost more times than you've attempted.
Yeah. Big time.
Oh, yeah.
That's real.
That's 100%. I'm sitting there. Yeah. I done take L after L after L. You know what I'm saying?
That means you just learn lesson after
exactly.
lesson after lesson.
You got to figure out how many ways. You got to figure out 101 ways not to do it before you find the one way to do it.
Right.
Exactly. You know, anybody you look at, Thomas Edison, you know, everybody in the past, every single person that has some level of success, unless it was passed to them. And even then, you still have a level of failure because you're not that individual. You got to learn a certain type of way.
Yeah, there's certain nuances that you're not just going to pick up by watching, just doing. Like, I've never been a salesperson ever. And the way I got into roof consulting is I was working for a company, and basically my task for that company was involved roof consulting work. And I figured, why not? Why not leave this company and start my own thing? And I did. And not realizing that, okay, when you start your own company, first and foremost, before you're a business owner, before you're a roof consultant, you're a salesman.
Absolutely.
Unless you get people to buy into what you're doing, you're never going to do roof consulting work. So that was something I had to learn the hard way. But as long as you're willing to get up more times than you fall, you'll be all right.
Absolutely. No, that's a fact. And so with the actual F&D brand, how did you guys come up with like the font? Like what made you stick to this font and like really start pushing that for your brand?
That font happened with a friend of mine from high school who's an artist.
Let me say that story.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, once again, it's one of his friends. Shout out to Chirpy.
That's not his real name. That's just what we've been calling him for over 20 years.
Exactly. What is his real name?
Freddie.
Freddie. Oh, I never knew that. And I've known this kid over 20 some years. Man, he has a great personality, man. He is so inviting, welcoming. When he sees you, you would have thought this was his first time ever meeting you, because he is just like, hey, man, how you doing? This, that.
It's infectious.
Yes.
He's a very warm, good-spirited person.
So with that being said, Frank knew he's into clothing. Right. He's into fashion, big time. So we asked him to do a couple. We told him, hey, man, listen, we need a logo. We need something, this, that, and the other. And
actually, we didn't even tell him we needed a logo. It's like, hey, we were thinking about starting our own brand. So you do clothing design. Give me some mock-ups and, we'll pay you for it or whatever. And he gave us several, and that logo was one of them. Matter of fact, that logo wasn't one of them. He was just playing around with that. And he showed it to me like in a screenshot. He was like, yeah, I was just messing around with the name of the company, and I came up with this. And I was like, yo. I sent it to him, and he was like, yo, this, like, he sent us 8 different things. We don't remember what the other 7 looked like. It was just that spoke to us. And it was like, put it like this. While we was thinking of the name of the company, had we had that logo, you see the logo under the brim of his hat? That's our official logo. That's our trademarked logo. Had we saw that logo probably wouldn't have existed. Yeah. It would have just been that.
Yep.
Gotcha. Okay.
And once again, I know you're gonna laugh when I say this. He also, when he came up with that, he was high.
Freddie's always high.
The reason I said that, because we also, obviously, when we were here last time, he was asking about the word Beyond Brunch.
Yeah.
And we were telling him the story of Chris, and we were like, yeah, he was also high. When he came up. So it's like,
I remember that. I saw that episode. Yeah.
Every time people come up with something around us, they be high. Hey, I don't know what that is. So,
yeah, I've never smoked, but hey, I've heard some good creative things come out of it.
Something.
Yeah.
Okay. And so with you guys having the store located in Plantation, what is your goal to really stay in that type of store? Do you want to stay in that area? Would you see yourself going to somewhere like Miami or Miramar? Or
definitely, it's not only Miami. We want to go where the market welcomes us. And even one of the things I think I explained to you is that we learned a lot. When we first actually opened up the store, we really was a retail store. It was a retail store that's called Efendee. So we didn't have no Efendee brand in there. It was all other brands. And one of the great things, just like Frank said about that, me especially working the day-to-day operations, when customers came in, I seen what they gravitated to, and I seen what they also completely ignored. So whatever it was, I seen the ladies and the men they were ignoring, that told me we don't need to buy more of that. They don't want this. But for some reason, they want that. And so we started doing research. Why do they want this? What is it about this? Every time I tell a customer to put this on, it's almost like automatic. They're going to walk out the store with it. When they put these jeans on, they're going to do it. When they put these, not so much. So it was like the more we started getting into that and seeing the fabric and understanding what people wanted, probably about a year and a half into it, we realized, you know what? This is probably a good time for us to test the waters and go the route of having F&D as a brand. Which is what we wanted all along. But we don't need to wait 5 or 6 years. Let's just start doing certain things right now and just throwing it out there and see what people do and see what they gravitate to and what they like. And obviously the logo itself is always appealing. You know, I laugh at people when they say, "Hey, listen, I thought F&D had 2 E's." And I'm like, yeah, it does. Well, you only got 1 E on your, and I'm like, no, look at it very well. And then you'll notice that the last E is backwards and forward.
It's
So
mirrored.
that's what it's mirrored. That's 2 E's right
Oh, wow. I just had a whole moment myself. You know what I'm saying? I thought that was 1 E on the end. And in my head, I'm like, I thought it was 2 E's
there.
though.
That's 2 E's.
Yeah, it's mirrored.
So,
Wow.
yes, so it's mirrored.
I just learned something today too. Wow. Okay.
Oh, trust me. When it first started off, what did they call us?
Efendee.
Efendee.
And they were like Efendee. And then once people understood the name that it was connected to us, honestly, we got more sales because people now can relate to our story.
People buying to you.
And it solidified what we've been saying all along. You know, most people know this about business. They don't buy your product, they buy you. If they deal with you, they mess with you, they're gonna buy more. So once again, you know, whether it's me tooting my own horn or just me hearing this from a lot of different people, you're a likable person. Tell your story. Let people get to know you. And that's the part I had a problem with. Though I've done public speaking and stuff like that, and I've done sales. But once I became a little more successful in my other business, staying behind the scene, I kind of like being behind the scene. And now, hold up. Now I got to be front and center again. Oh, the antisocial social has to pop its face again. It's like, oh my God. So once I was able and we were comfortable with doing that, we started branching off and started coming up with certain things that we wanted to start with. And then did we start with the hats first or did we start with the sweatsuits?
Hats.
We started off with the hats and we started pushing those and pushing that and seeing how people liked it. So we came out with different type of hats, 6-panel, 7-panel hats.
You started off with the 7 panels.
Yeah, the 7 panels first.
Because we didn't see, like, New Era, they're very popular with their 6 panels, and trucker hats are popular on, you know, on their own. But I don't recall going into a Lids and seeing a lot of 7 panels. I don't recall going into a Foot Locker and seeing 7 panels and things like that. So I was like, when we do come out, let's come out with a hat configuration that at least we could say we don't see nobody else with us. Not to say it doesn't exist. Of course it exists, but nobody that in our community has made it popular.
Right.
So that was the first hat style we went with, the 7 panel.
Right.
Okay. And so what would be like an example of how you present your catalogs? Like, how do you know what you're going to come out with next? And so say next year, this time, what would you have going forward as far as like merch?
Frank went in a direction, and I just want to kind of lead you so you can know where I want you to go with this. We came out with an F&Deism collection, and it was more so the story behind the F&D collection, the F&Deism, that I really loved. And actually, I'm actually wearing it right now. And with that being said, I like the idea where he took the idea from. And that in itself was a story that I think if people knew that, it would like translate even more. If you care to share that right now.
Yeah, that's fine. So, okay, so when you walked in our store, one of the first things you noticed was the art on the wall.
Yeah.
Growing up, we grew up in Alapata, which is the neighboring neighborhood to Wynwood. Like literally, we stayed on the border of Alapata, which is 29th Street. On the other side of 29th Street was Wynwood or whatever. So anybody familiar with South Florida or Miami, Wynwood is the art district. So seeing that type of artwork was really big in our upbringing. So we're huge fans of art, more specifically street art. So that's why we have pictures of graffiti and pictures of Basquiat and all of that. So what you see there, the F&Deism, the way that came about was there was a very popular wall in Wynwood, the Loveism wall. It had Bob Marley and all that. That wall meant something to me because when me and my wife got married, we did our engagement shoot in front of the Loveism picture or whatever. So a lot of the influence that comes out in our design comes from actual things we experience, and we turn that into the clothing. So that particular line came from that. So when it comes to what's coming out next year, it depends on what we're going through. So if me and him are having a conversation and he tells me of something, let's say he goes on a vacation or something, he's telling me about this vacation, If something speaks, because I'm the one that mostly does the design. He sends me some inspiration, but when it comes to like just being creative, that's me. Like what they say, the left side of the brain is the creative side, the right side of the brain. He's the right side, I'm the left side. So he sees something that makes sense to him logically, he gives it to me. Hey, this adds up to me. But if you put your 2 cents on it, it'll be magic. And that's basically how our relationship works.
Okay.
He's the logical one. He's the one that's kind of more structured than I am. I'm the one that's always late. I'm the more so
creative.
I'm more so the free spirit. And it works. And sometimes we butt heads, but for the most part, it works. So he gives it to me. It's like, hey, I like this. I know if you put your magic on it, it'll be great. So it depends. If he goes through something or if I experience something and I tell him about it, hey, look, I went through this. You know what? Give me a second. I'm going to send you something. Because sometimes I'm excited. I don't even have the words for it. I'll draw it out and I'm like, look, this is what I'm trying to show you. What do you think of this? And then he'll be like, oh, yo, that's cool. Like the next line of hats that we're coming out with, we don't even have a name for it. It's like paint splatter or whatever. It's like all over the hats. And we have it on bucket hats or whatever. And I forgot, I was watching In Living Color, right? And you know, I forgot which season of In Living Color, but that particular season, the opening theme was like paint or whatever. You had Keenan Ivory Wayans. He had the 2 buckets and he splashed it. And when he splashed the screen, the paint drips down, you see his name. Somebody else had a bike. They rolled the bike. I think it was David Allen Greer. He rolls the bike in the paint and then he rolls it on the screen and then you see his name. Somebody else had paint. They did something. And I'm like, that is cool. And then I was like, I'm wanting to do something like that. So I thought of paint splatter. So I went, had a pattern made. I showed him the pattern and he's like, okay, and I'm like, okay, wait. So then I went and had hats made and I'm like, now look at it. He's like, yo, this is dope. And it's like, sometimes when I try to explain it, it's not hitting. But once I talk it out, then it's like, oh, okay. And that is inspired by Living Color because me and him we're huge fans of comedy. And the first comedy that I can recall us ever bonding over was In Living Color. Like In Living Color coming to America. We might even come out with something that's coming to America thing. Because again, it's big. Like whatever we come out with, it can't just mean something to one of us. Not that he would shoot it down or anything, but again, the name of the store is Efendee. So no matter what we do, you have to get the both of us. It has to resonate with the both of us.
Yep.
Got you. Okay, okay. And so he introduced me to being crowned. How'd y'all come up with that? Crowning people.
I'm not gonna lie, that was all him. That was all him.
Once again, the story behind the crown is, especially once again, my background has a little bit of education, you know. So I've always been one of the people that's against how kids are being educated. I wish the system was better. It's just one of those things that the only way I know I can be the change is by making sure when they come to our store, not only kids, but adults alike, be reminded of who they are. And it's the false narrative that especially brown and black people, we were slaves in Africa and brought here to become slaves again. That is far from the truth. I tell people, we were farmers, we were carpenters, we were noblemen, we were kings and queens, all of that. We were brought here and turned into slaves. So with that being said, it's my reminder to folks when they come and they purchase at the store, one of the first things I ask them, okay, now that you purchased, do you mind if I crown you? And I did exactly what I did with you. I positioned them in front of the baller's wall. We'll talk about that later. And when I crowned them, it's almost instantaneously, you see the reaction on their face when they actually look at the picture. I trained the staff to do the exact same thing where you don't have to move so much. We move the picture and we put that crown right on top of you from the baller's wall and it looks like it's really on top of your head. And you see someone when they see that picture, first and foremost, they want that picture. You know what they're going to do with that picture. They're going to post it. And you tell them that they've been crowned, that I just want you to know that you're royalty. It just does someone to somebody. And we all know the saying, you want to make somebody feel better, you know, leaving you than they did when they first approached you.
Yep.
So that is our way of making sure people feel good when they're walking out of F&D. Because if you look at it, one thing you realize when you see F&D, it doesn't say F&D clothing store or Efendee Kicks or Efendee Apparel. It just says Efendee. That location really is a hub, because I've had countless of people just come to the store, purchase, and stay there, and just we talk about life. We talk about networking. We talk about the future. We talk about the past. We talk about a whole lot of, we talk about a plethora of things. And that's what we want F&D to be. It's not that I want people to come there and just hang out just for the sake of hanging out, but it's just the fact that they feel comfortable enough, that they stay. And it's one of those things, once again, I think it just builds that persona. It's that thing within me that, I have two different things that I do that people come and they want to stay.
Mm-hmm.
They come at this spot, they want to stay. So when I see that, that literally tells me I'm doing something right. Let's continue telling our story, because people are gelling with it. And if more people know about our story, and great thing about it, we haven't even started getting into all the struggles and the hard times that we had. They're just seeing the two black young men just trying to make it. And we're just trying to do it the right way. And, we just taking our mindset, like he just told you, this is my designer. Mm. And one day we do know that we're going to have someone that looks at us and say, hey, if you guys can design that, if you guys realize what I can do, I'm going to jump with y'all and let's make this even bigger. What is the story you told me about Chris Rock with the car on the side of the road?
I didn't tell you that.
Wasn't you? Chris Rock once said, if you want people to help you,
yeah.
If you want people to help you, and
like
your car is stalled on the
if your car is stalled on the road, if you
you
stand out and hold your hand, nobody's gonna stop to help you. But if you get done and look like you're trying to change the tire yourself, somebody's gonna stop and help you change it. Mm. So in business, if you're just reaching out to people, say, hey, help me with this, and nobody see you putting any work in, they're not going to want to be a part of your journey.
Yes.
But if you're actively pushing whatever it is you're doing, if you're pushing it yourself, people gonna see your struggle, and people who align with your struggle is gonna say, hey, you know what, let me help you.
Right. Big time.
Nah, that's dope. That's dope. Just even hearing the backstory of just how y'all build this brand and how you use it as like an exemplary, I think that's the word. Yeah. Exemplary, like exemplary towards like, just community, but also vibe. Like you walk in there and you feel a certain type of way. You see certain things, you're pushed by certain drives automatically, whether you speak to them or not. It's just that feeling of being in there and what it represents. So what would be your take on taking F&D into like, because we're in the South Florida market, into like what is it called? Art Basel.
We would love that.
See that? How you had to look at it. That's
honestly, again, we're not in Wynwood or anything. However, when Art Basel come around, again, one of our MO is helping people that's looking to, the people that's trying to push their own cars. Mm-hmm. Every person we see trying to push their own car, we're gonna jump out and push with you. That's just how we operate. So 1 year we're planning to have a what you call it, like a gallery in the store.
Yeah, gallery.
Especially if you're an artist that also sells your clothing. This is the vision we have. So if you're an artist, right, and you have these beautiful canvases, but you also create clothing or whatever, and you take whatever's on those canvases and put it on shirts, hypothetically speaking, we're willing to give you a spot in the store where you can put up your artwork. And then if people like your artwork, they can purchase it. But if people just want a shirt with your artwork, we'll give you a rack so you could display your clothing. So you can stand in front of your artwork and display it and tell people your story. And if they want to buy the canvas, they'll have the option to. If they just want a shirt or a hat with your artwork, we'll give you the space to display that as well. And that's our vision for the store. One year during Art Basel, we would like to have something like that. I think that'd be dope.
I mean, this year during Art Basel, you know what I'm saying? 1 year, but yeah, I sent it to you. I don't know if you saw it. The swim week that's going on at the Deer.
Oh, I don't know.
The Hard Rock Hotel. Yeah, I sent it to you because they're still looking for designer spots. But it's from a guest that we had on the show, very early stages. His name is Tony Visions.
Right.
He's a Latino guy, real name David Woods, and Art Basel sent him a cease and desist. because because Art Basel is like a Swiss company or whatever, and they do certain things in the Miami aspect. But he said, why should it be limited to just Miami? And he took it out of Miami.
Art
And
Basel?
he took Art Basel out of Miami and put it in Broward. And so now the Hard Rock Hotel works with them, and they do a fashion show series every Art Basel kind of thing. And they have another one coming up July 4th through 6th for Swim Week. So at also Hard Rock. But what just bringing Art Basel to Broward, it was his whole thing because he works with Fort Lauderdale, everybody. And so they didn't like that because he's been bringing people out. And so people have been visiting less things in Miami to come do things in Broward. And so, when I see you guys' store with everything and just hearing you just say what you would, implement, I'm like, yo, y'all would definitely fit into Art Basel. And I could see that collection just being a thing with other collaborators, but also just your brand in general. So, do you guys see yourselves getting into like fashion shows? Anything like that?
We've actually had a fashion show at our store.
Okay. We had a fashion show at our store. We're in contact with a young lady who I spoke to Friday, and she, I believe it's the fashion show. One is in New York and one is in California. And literally tomorrow I'm gonna be talking to her to see if we can do a pop-up up there. So
and then also next year for a lot of the fashion week, we're looking to be a part of that as well.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, no, David Woods, Tony Visions, I want to plug you guys in because he is completely, even in Miami, he's dominating Miami, but he's bringing it to Broward to really just give that example because he's like, hey, we have people in West Palm, we have people in Broward, everything only happens in Miami. Let's start utilizing these locations in Broward and whatnot.
Yeah, I think Broward is going to take off big time because as Miami gets more and more crowded, a lot of people are moving more north.
Exactly, being in that right position. And so something I wanted to commend you guys on also, because I'm in the production field, your models, they are refreshing because they don't look like the same models that you see everywhere in Miami. Literally, people reuse the same models over and over, male and female. And it's just like, it's cool. Don't get me wrong, but just seeing your model catalog, that was the first thing that popped in my head, as a creative. I'm like, oh, they look different. Not only do they look good, but they look different. And that already made me, more attracted to your brand. So I don't know if anybody's ever told you that, but that detail, the attention to detail, in the tags that I was taking off on this, you had the trademark logo, you had the regular logo, you had the paragraph. In the paragraph, you had Be the Change. Like I'm a detailed person. And so I'm paying attention to all of these little things, like the tags, the just like you said, the quality of the material. Like, I'm like, man, I'm analyzing this is a quality brand. Like the amount of time that you take to put in the work for these things doesn't go unnoticed. The average person is not going to pay attention 100% to it, but people like me definitely appreciate those attention to detail. And just that fact will keep me going back to like, okay, what else they got coming out? What else they got going on? This and that. Or if I do make a recommendation, the organization that's in there, where everything is, how the racks are, the way it's set up, it's comfortable. It's comfortable shopping. It's not like it's a lot of things in there, but it doesn't feel overwhelming.
Right. And I didn't want it. I don't like clutter. And there's no clutter in there.
And so that alone just made me like, okay, cool. I would go cop, I would go do this. I would go do that. So what would be, and you can split it between the both of you, what would be 3 key pieces of advice that you would give? And I'm going to make it specific, that you would give a Black individual coming into, the merch game or, just the entrepreneurship merch side of the world, clothing.
First and foremost, do not be discouraged from the lack of help. You have this vision. The Lord put it in your head. Make it happen. It's the only reason that he put it in your head, because he already sees it happening. So you got to do it when nobody else believes in you. That is the most important thing. I can let Frank do the other 2, but that is first and foremost. You're going to have the closest people to you do not believe in you. They're not going to believe in you until it happens. And obviously, like they said, then they're going to tell everybody they were your day ones. We experience this all the time. So just know that you got to have the intestinal fortitude to just continue, and just don't give up. That'll be my first advice to a young black person or a black person, male, female, I don't care what you is. That's the most important thing right there.
Okay.
That's a good one. The next one I would say is develop callous when it comes to learning lessons. I'm not going to say taking L's because everybody here taking a loss, and it has such a negative stigma to it. You have to be comfortable with taking losses. I mean, no, we're not in it to lose, but understand you're attempting something that you haven't done before. Nobody bats 1,000. The first time you've done anything, you failed. And if you did it, if you had beginner's luck and did it good, the second time you did it, you failed beyond measure. So understand it's okay to take a loss. Just try not to take the same loss twice. And every loss that you take or every lesson that you learn, understand it. Understand why it didn't work. Understand how it could have worked. So now it's lesson upon a lesson. It's not that, okay, I tried it this way, it didn't work. Well, think about why it failed and think about, okay, and what application would this specific action that I've done and what application will it work? Because you might be able to go back to those same actions again down the line. So learn to become comfortable with learning lessons and analyze those losses just as much as you would want to celebrate a win. And the third one,
I get it. We could both do a third. I guess.
Okay.
We could do 1-on-1. We can make it 4.
Yeah, 3A and 3B.
Okay, go ahead.
The
with
next
third
one I would say is find a mentor in your related field. It's very important. I'll be remiss if I didn't shout out Devin from the basement and Redman from Style Couture.
Right.
Those two individuals right there, knowing that I was trying to do something that was the same thing that they were doing. They have boutiques themselves. I asked for their help, and best believe both of those individuals helped me out big time. I mean, they gave me the insights to the point where they were even willing to help me out with accounts because we didn't have no clothing. We didn't have nothing to
Devin
sell.
was huge for that. Devin literally, before we had accounts, he was like, look, you could just make the purchases through me since I have them.
Yeah.
And that was big.
So shout out. Don't be afraid to ask. We do have black men in our community that are willing to unite and help us. And once again, those two individuals, man, listen, I owe them a whole lot. And they know that. So make sure y'all, shout them out. Redman and Devin, big salutes to both of you guys. Look for a mentor.
I agree with that. And I would say to piggyback off that, if you don't find a mentor, learn to take lessons from when they're not being taught to you. Oof. So if you hear people talking, listen to what they're saying, listen to what they're not saying. There's nothing new under the sun. And when it comes to any type of business, there are certain things that are constant no matter what business that you're in. So if you're looking to get in retail and you're looking to, again, sell your product, if you know people that are in sales, no matter what type of sales it is, if they're selling insurance, if they're selling cars or whatever, listen to how they speak. Listen to how they try to lure people in when it comes to buying. There's key things in their conversation when you're coming to sales that can help you. So if you understand the science behind whatever it is you're trying to do. So if you're trying to sell, don't listen to the science of just selling clothes. Listen to the science of selling. If you can identify those things, it'll help you a long way. If you can understand the science of marketing, no matter who's doing the marketing, whether it's Apple, whether it's Walmart or whoever, they all market different. If you understand the science behind their marketing, why they choose to market the way they do, you take those lessons. So that way, even if you don't have a mentor, or even when you're on your path to finding a mentor, you're still learning from somebody who's done it before you and that's doing it better than you.
Absolutely. And with marketing and advertising, you really have to understand that. When I get students, clients, whoever, they don't understand what marketing is and what advertising is. These are two different complete things. Marketing is the actual research of data. When you go on Instagram, all these free platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever, it's free. They're marketing. They're marketing to you because guess what they're doing? They're selling your data. Advertising is actually putting your brand, your merch, your product, your service, your whatever, and pushing it out to the public. And so touching on what Frank says, understanding the difference between those two are going to take your business to a complete different level because a lot of people aren't marketing. they're just jumping into things and they're not doing what it takes to really build their brand because
Right.
you don't have enough research. You don't have things to go off of. And so with that, it's just, oh, I'm going to spend $100 on advertisement, which is not even enough. But, I'm going to spend $100 and then you get mad when you spend a couple $100 and it doesn't go anywhere. And you're like, oh, it failed. Or you get a mentor and you don't understand what that mentor is really trying to teach you because you have one-dimensional way of thinking. Never be afraid to, expand and broaden your horizons. And so just had to add that part.
Absolutely.
But man, Frank, Don, I appreciate you guys coming on the show. Absolutely. Tell everybody where they can find you on social media, where your store is, the website, everything.
Well, it's true. First and foremost, the store is located once again in Plantation, 19 North State Road 7, Plantation, Florida, 33317. Open 6 out of the 7 days, pretty much 12 to 7 every day. Instagram.
Our website, before you get to Instagram, you can find us online at efendee.com. That is EFENDEE.com. Not only are you able to see the merchandise we sell, but we also have a tab on the top called Efendee Productions. And you can see the other things we get into, interviews that we've done, events that we've had, me and my brother messing around and playing games and whatever. So, I mean, again, we aim to be a community. We aim to be a hub. Come and join us. And now Don can tell you the Instagram and all that.
We are Efendee. Now that's we.are.Efendee. Once again, EFENDEE on Instagram and on TikTok. And that's where you can find us.
And so when's the next live event that you guys have coming up?
I believe it's the 27th of this month.
Yeah,
We're doing
right.
Threads and Needles. It's featuring Frankie Red. She is she's a poet. I was going to say slam poet, but I don't think she's a slam poet. She's a poet. She does spoken word. She's an incredible entertainer. She's also a good friend of ours. So we're very excited and honored to have her.
Yeah, we know Frankie. Frankie definitely
Yeah,
good.
I know Frankie.
Good
Frankie's
people.
and once again, I think as far as with her talent, she is really underrated in this community. Great heart. Great heart. She's like our little sister, Sometimes you got to kind of curtail her, but you know what? She's driven. And that's the one thing. I'd rather deal with somebody that's super driven than somebody I got to try to get off the couch. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. So shout out. Make sure you guys come through on the 27th. And we also have that $75 deal. $75. Fill her a bag. Come in there. Throw it in the bag sale. As long as it don't pass the brim. I don't care what it is. $75 is yours. Y'all make sure y'all come through.
Absolutely. And you already know, Rich, love supporting businesses, everything like that. And so when you do watch this episode, and it's at the end of the episode this time because I'm going to do it anyway, summer's coming up. They got bucket hats coming out. I'm a bucket hat enthusiast. We're going to probably do about like 5 or 10 bucket hats and want y'all rocking it for the summer. Shout out Efendee, shout out Attractive Mindset. And we're going to get y'all styled up. And it's just, just watch the episode and send a message. You're going to get it. You ain't got to say no secret word, no nothing. Right. Just be like, hey, I want my bucket hat. We got you. You go choose the color, but you got to show up and get your own stuff.
For sure.
All right. And so appreciate y'all again for coming on the show. Most definitely. Y'all are definitely some influential Black men, and I appreciate y'all. Y'all are older than me. And so just even knowledge that you're giving, experience that you're giving, I take that in and I appreciate it because I didn't grow up that way where I had a lot of other older people, older Black people than me, just willing to give game or just help or even just listen.
Right.
And so the fact that you guys are like that, I appreciate you and want to give y'all flowers as well.
And honestly, we got to reciprocate that, man. You have an amazing studio. Once again, it's my second time here. I feel at home. This is not my last. I'm saying this again. Anybody I know that's doing something in the community, I'm like bragging about you, brother.
Thank you.
Because I love what you got, and I just want everybody to not only share their story, but I want them to know who you are. And that's very important to me because, once again, you are doing something with your team. Continue it up. Hey, flowers to you as well, bro.
Thank you. And so we conclude another episode of Attractive Mindset. If you like it, share, subscribe, send it to your friends, family, random people if you like. Just tap in. Just follow us on social media, Instagram, Attractive Mindset, Facebook, everything, TikTok, we're everywhere. And so as we say, we look good, we live good, life is good. Talk to us, we talk back. We out of here.
Out.